What's up?
Not much, dude.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're now shooting this in the morning.
Yeah, to the people watching this, doesn't affect them, but to us it does. So we're going to try it, mix it up, try it in the mornings.
We're in the studio instead of at my house.
Yeah. Is there any reason for that?
Now I can have the desk facing the camera and like I can keep the desk my work zone. Nice. So like in the past I had one desk in my bedroom and I'd work there, and then we had our pod desk. Well, now I moved this one out of my living room, moved my real desk into my living room, and I can do it all in the same spot now.
So you have an actual bedroom.
Kind of, yeah.
It doesn't have a recording spot in it anymore.
Yeah, no.
So, okay. Yeah, any, that's the only reason? No major developments?
No, I'm trying to move next door into the other unit.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to rent out my space.
Gotcha.
So,
why?
Dude, so there's another tenant that I want to move out and renovate their unit.
Gotcha.
So they're paying like way too low of rent. Mm-hmm. So you can either jack rents up, which makes people mad and is like not really looked on well, or you can give them another place and be like, hey, this is another option. You can live in here, and then we'll renovate and then raise their rents on that unit.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah, this person was like begging for like not us to kick them out basically when we did all the renovations, but we need to now. We need to do like 3 more units. So we're just like raising the rents and then moving them over.
Yeah, because that property's was built in like the 70s.
70s, yeah.
Yeah. It's an old property.
Yeah.
It's nice, but the insides, if they haven't been updated.
Yeah.
We're thinking, some of them original insides, or are they like 90s insides?
Oh no, they're like 90s,
yeah.
2000s.
So
They've been renovated. All of them were renovated, but like none of them are like up to the standard. Okay. And then where you can charge higher rents.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
how's the boat search going?
The boat search, dude.
I had that on my notes. I was like,
so
this is like
yesterday's the first day on the boat.
Nice.
I got my license and everything, and we nailed a feature that I've been working on for years.
So
not years.
For itself.
It's probably been a year since I've been working on one of the features that we want to build next year in Copilot, and so I just got in flow and like pounded out pages and pages of logic.
Nice, dude.
It's like a very, very complicated thing, and it's something I want to show at conference.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk about it much
public
here.
Conference?
Yeah, public conference.
Okay.
I want to do a demo of it. And I think it's gonna blow people's minds out of the water.
Nice.
So
you wrote the code?
No, the logic. So like, I know enough.
That to me.
Yeah, so I know enough about the code to know like what can and can't be done, but I'm not gonna actually be able to compile it. But I do understand very clearly like what can be done in code and like where the problems are going to be at with like retrieving data from databases and stuff like that. So for me, I need to write the logic for a developer to actually go build it. Like gotcha. I'd say like I'm the architect for the builder. I don't know how to build it, but I know how to I know what the language they need to know is. And so that's what I wrote yesterday. It was probably like 5 pages. I was just like, okay, so if this, then do this. If this, because like there's so many different ways you can take it. So
they say that I've heard this, and someone might correct me, that like architecture is harder than engineering. So are you saying like, is that part that you're doing harder than code?
I wouldn't say I'm doing architecture. Architecture is a little differently. Like you would need to know backend, and you'd actually be in the database, like the actual form of architecture. I'd say I'm more doing product development, like figuring out strategy, but I know what that next stage looks like enough to kind of be like, okay, this is not possible. We need to be able to get this data point to be able to extrapolate, et cetera. So
are you moving a little faster at Copilot?
We're finally hitting our groove, I think. There's several things we've been doing just to make it better, but we've been moving fast in terms of features because we need to get Augusta in. So this week, Augusta's starting to move in to Copilot, and there were certain features that we had to get done. So unfortunately, we had to kind of abandon our strategy in terms of bug fixes, and because we had to get the features done. So I couldn't pull devs from like the feature team to fix bugs. So our bug threshold got a little too high. Yeah. And that's really what led to a lot of the stress, like, in the last pod and stuff like that. Yeah. So we're almost done those features. We've gotten like the core loop bugs all figured out. Even this morning, like we figured out finally like Australia is not sending in Twilio text messages. We figured it out. So it's nice. And I'm just creating better structure too in terms of like making sure that like it doesn't affect me as much like in my headspace. Yeah. So I'm creating like incentives for team members to be able to like be more the firefighters and care more about attrition and bug fixes and things like that.
Yeah. So is the boat already paying for itself then?
Dude, the boat literally, if you really want to look at it from that perspective, the boat paid for itself yesterday. Yeah. Like that feature is something that I don't think any other CRM has really nailed. I've seen the 2 that have tried, and it's like, it's okay, but we never could use it because it wasn't customizable enough. And so when you start allowing a user to customize basically the code by like automations, for example, where you allow them to customize things, it takes a lot of work. So in this case, it's something that really I haven't seen anyone else do it. So I don't have a template. I don't really know. So I really have to think through like, what does this look like? What questions do we ask the customer to ask the user? So, it's around automated scheduling, but I'm looking forward. I want to do a demo at conference and I just want to make it really cool.
Did you stay on the boat? Did you stay overnight, or were you just there for the day?
No, I'm not an overnighter.
I feel like people want to know about this experience.
Just a couple hours,
What
dude.
size boat did you get?
Yesterday was a 24 footer.
Okay.
Yeah, a little nice one.
Do you know what kind it was?
Dude, I have no idea.
It was like Sea Sport.
I don't know, dude. No, not trophy. No, it had a little bit of an inside cabin area, and so I did my test, to get my license, and then I just stayed out.
Cool.
And just kept, and then I got home and just kept writing code, and then I sent it over to George last night. I'm like, hey, dude, day one of this new strategy. So I'm trying to get out of the office earlier. I've told the teams that directly report to me, it's like, hey, I have to get off by a certain time. I have 8 keynotes, and I want to make them all amazing. And I only have 6 weeks, and in that 6 weeks, I also have to travel to do shots for the media team. So like technically probably like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I need to make 8 keynotes, and I want them to be really good. Like usually I'm pretty much like, I make my keynote, like I kind of like put stuff together and I make my slide deck, and then it's like, okay, based on my slide deck, I can free flow it. I want to spend more time really just like ironing out my presentation, and like, I'm not going to have my notes, but I want it to be better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spend a lot of time making them good. And then after that, I'm going to start compiling what I've been working on for a couple years in terms of the book. So
cool.
So we'll see.
You want to tease the book at all? I don't think I even know.
No one knows.
Okay.
Since I got my Remarkable, I had started making sketches, and I've just kept it in like a sketchbook. And so, to be perfectly honest, I didn't think I would write one this soon. I was thinking like in a few years. But definitely watching Alex, how he launched his book, I was like very inspired. But okay, this can be done differently and done in a way that is like really helpful for people. And like even seeing some of the things I didn't like about his and I did like about his, and I really liked the fact that like he had a course and like a journal along with the book that was like as resources. So that was inspiring because like that's the way I like to communicate, is more like video style. So if I can build it like that, but then have the book as like also there. So yeah, it was. I'm gonna start working on it. Sweet. And like so this is the very first book I technically actually write like every single word. Yeah. Because in the past I've either had people help me write it, or it's been more technical writing like P4P, which P4P has done really well in terms of like selling copies. But it's just a matter of like, I didn't write it. It's not, it was like a passion. I needed like math on there, and and I did write a lot of it, like pieces and stories and things like that, but never really every single word. So this one, like, I'm gonna get an editor, and really make it good. And so I'm hoping I can write it in the next 6 to 8 months. So I'm gonna do it right. Like this is gonna be one I want to like. I'll be proud of.
That's sweet. I'm excited.
Yeah. So it's a lot of like little sketches and stuff I've made in the past that like I've never really shared. And it just honestly gave me confidence to like see what Alex did, because like he's so much bigger than I am, and he showed his sketches and stuff. Yeah. And to me, I'm like, okay, like these are the things I've drawn out to are valuable, but more importantly, it takes it down for service businesses, because his are very general. Right. And so a lot of stuff so I went back to my Remarkable and started flipping. I'm like, hey, there's value here. I could write a whole chapter about this one diagram or this thing. So we'll see. I think it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've never looked forward to writing in my entire life, but now with like having the boat thing and like knowing that I can just go out and just like really focus on it, and then like I've now been setting up structures at the office to put lines of defense between like fires and myself. I feel like I could create something that's like valuable for people. Yeah.
Do you still let people book one-on-one calls with you?
Yeah, I've restricted those, so I allow 2 of those a month now. Yeah. And then
you still doing them?
Yeah, they're expensive as all get out. If someone asked me about $800 for 45 or 50 minutes, but I restrict them to 2 in Calendly a month, and then I don't want to do them. It's just a matter of like if someone has to talk to me, it's like I have a way you can do that, but you're gonna have to pay out to Wazoo. And if it's just a question, like please just do it on a live call. Yeah. So I try to do live calls, once or twice a month. It's very intermittent, but I do that mostly so if someone feels like they have to ask me a question, which usually they don't. But if they feel that way, they can do it.
Accessible.
Then. Yeah.
I just figured I'd ask because I think with everything you're developing with Copilot, writing a book now, if you're only doing 2 a month, it makes sense. But also that 45 minutes would make your businesses more than $800.
Yeah. Yeah. But by restricting it to 2 a month, I feel it's like if someone really has to talk to me, like I don't know why, I still don't really understand like the logic of like that needing to be the case. Like you can hop on a call and like, yes, other people are going to hear it, but like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But there are people that feel that way. And especially if there's like relationship stuff happening, then, or like they're going through a divorce and they want to figure out how to like do the business stuff. I understand that.
Or it's more private.
Yeah. So like I do it honestly for myself more like just being accessible and just having that still available.
Do you think it's also for you a little bit of the reps of like still talking to business owners? I mean, you still do, but do you think it keeps you sharp? Like, all right, this random person booked a call with me. I have no idea what they're going to throw at me.
What's interesting is usually those are not in lawn care and landscaping.
Right.
Almost all of them. And so that makes a little more sense to me because most of my content is geared that way. But like the last one I talked to was the one I remember is the guy who did like 20 million a year doing insulation and fireproofing stuff. And then another guy, he had a roofing company, did like 10 million. And so a lot of them are like, hey, like, where's the next step from here? A lot of them are very unprofitable and massive businesses. And so those I can see where you don't want that to be like public information. It's like, because you're seen as very, very successful if you have a $10, $15 million business. But if you can barely take $200,000-$300,000 home a year, that's like a couple % profit margin, and that's freaking you out like significantly. I can see how like you don't want people to know that.
That makes sense.
So, but that's usually who's on those calls is
but there's not a lot of people someone in that position can turn to, other than I guess inside their network of colleagues.
Yeah,
like they can't. There's not someone at their scale or higher that's accessible to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally.
So it's like you're an option.
It's honestly just someone to bounce something off of, right? A lot of times I think most business owners, if they forget about who they were talking to and they just talk to someone about their issues, they'd actually resolve a lot of them themselves if they were self-introspective enough. Like if you have the ability to be like, oh, I was wrong on that, or like, then you'd probably actually just like talking through things will help you a lot. So like even like the pod like helped me a lot like last week. Just being like, okay, like this doesn't make sense. I can just delegate this and like I'll incentivize someone to make sure there's not bugs, and I'll make sure like the firefighting is not on my plate, and I'll have someone else looking at the messages that are coming in. So if you can be self-introspective enough, you shouldn't really need to talk to an advisor. In my opinion, a lot. You don't need advice. You need to like hear yourself talking and be like, oh, like that's wrong. Like, you know your business the best. And that's why like for most of us, anyone talking to any of these owners, like if you talk to these owners, you'd be able to come up with the same advice as I do. And the reason for that is because when you're looking at someone else's business, it's very easy to find the flaws.
It's very objective.
Yeah.
It's very black and white.
Yeah, it's very easy. I think any of the franchisees could look at most of the coaching calls I do outside of Augusta and be like, oh, like this is when they change this, because they know the systems. But then it's in their own business. That's when it's always a struggle, right? Like anyone else, like this is how I came over to figure out this thing in the past week is like if someone was talking to me, what would they say about how I should fix this problem of me like not sleeping and like being super stressed out about all this stuff. And like it'd be super easy. I'd be like, okay, well, you need to hire this. You need to incentivize your executives to take this off your plate. And if this happens, they get penalized, and then that gives them the stress. And then you walk away knowing someone else is worrying about it. So like, so then if you can do that, it's not so hard to fix the businesses.
I hate to say it's that simple, but I'll share more a little bit at the public conference, but very in depth with the franchise onlys, running one of your locations. And when I was going through the thick of it this spring, I just stepped back at one point and I said, I do coaching calls every day. No. So if I were coaching myself, what would I say? And it made it very easy. I'm like, if these problems in front of me were franchisees' problem, what would I say to them? Like, heartlessly, what would I just say? Blunt, this is what you need to fix. And then I just started doing it. Yeah. So it's like that detached self-evaluation. It's hard.
It goes to show that like strategy is, kind of worthless compared to execution. Yeah. Because strategy is like anyone literally could look at your business and fix it. It is the execution. And that's why even like the turnarounds that we're starting to do now with the media team, it's like me going out and telling them what to do. Honestly, I could do that from my studio. based upon their intro call and their financials, right? We're going out there for the media side of things to make it interesting, but whether or not they actually fix their business depends on when I leave. Right. What happens after? Because the next 2 weeks to 2 months delineates whether or not they actually succeed. Because like the actual going there and figuring out, I could do it from my studio. I do not need to be there. I could tell you what you need to do. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting because as we do them, we'll come back to them. And that's our goal is like, now that we just from a resource perspective, it's very expensive on my time and just money in general for us to go back a second time for a shot. But I really want to do it because it's going to show what happens. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a great storyline from a media perspective because it's like either A, they listen and change the business, or 2, they don't listen and then everything just falls apart. Yeah. So the latter will be harder to make a video of because it's like you feel bad for them, but it's very educational. It's what people need to see. Because it's so easy. Like everyone on YouTube jumps on board and starts saying what people should be doing. And if I went to any of their businesses, they'd have problems too. Yeah. And so I think the turnaround is gonna be great. I think we're gonna refine it so good. Like this video coming out. When's this coming out? Like next couple days. Yeah, so like probably right around the same time our second turnaround's coming out. It's gonna be slightly better. But then we're going to Louisiana next week for a turnaround, non-Augusta, still in lawn care and landscaping, and it's gonna be a banger. And we're like stepping this person knows we're coming.
I can wait to release this.
No, this person knows we're scheduling it. But there's things they don't know. So there's things they don't know. Cool. So we'll keep it fresh. And I look forward to I think it's something we can keep refining and make it better. And I really want to replace The Prophet. Like Marcus Lemonis, The Prophet, CNBC made a great show for years. Hasn't made anything new for a few years now. And I love that show. That's the best show that taught me so much about business. And so I want to recreate it. And I think we can do it over the next couple of years if we just, keep widening the audience. So like the book is going to be, I'm not going to say anything about the book.
No, that's fine. Yeah, leave it. leave it like that. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I just talking to Liz this morning. My wife and I have been getting back into Bar Rescue. Such a good show, dude. I watched an episode last night, and it's so good. They like psychologically pushed the owner to basically like admit like I have given up. Yeah. And then once he like admitted it, then it was like, cool, now we can rebuild the business. Yeah. But until you admit it's your fault and you've given up and stop playing the blame game, like we can't fix anything. And it's just so cool to watch like John Taffer operate because like he is the top of the bar and entertainment industry. You are at the top 1% of the lawn care landscape industry. So it's like, no, you just do what I say, but people have to like, it's that self-pride, right? So, I did want to ask about the what are we calling those videos? Transitions? Turnarounds. Thank you. Turnarounds. So
we don't want to brand it yet. We don't know what we want to do with it. Fair enough. So we haven't branded it. It's like, this is the Mike Andes channel. And today I'm going to like doing a turnaround. I'm going to
this place.
Yeah.
So you recently did one with a franchisee outside of Boise, Idaho. Yeah. His name's Cameron. Give us some of the behind the scenes on that. I don't really have specific questions. It was a longer video. It was 30 minutes. So what's some of the stuff we didn't see or that maybe it's exclusive to the C-suite audience?
So some of it I'm going to hold because I'm going to do a franchisee only one once we get the second one out because there's 2 franchisees that we did a turnaround with. And so I'm going to hold some of that like behind the scenes stuff for them because it's more personal. But in general, I would say it's very difficult to do a turnaround like we're doing with franchisees. Yeah. It just is because John Taffer doesn't have to work with that person for the next 10 years in their bar, right? So he can go in there and say stuff. He can hurt feelings. He can get people fired. It doesn't matter. And it's a little harder for us because like we have a existing relationship and I need to have a relationship afterwards. So there's a lot of stuff that like we don't put in the videos because it could hurt the person and it could hurt the brand and stuff like that. So getting outside of Augusta is actually gonna be helpful. And I think that it'll be, I can do a little more from the media perspective and I can say more what I'm thinking because like I got to be a little more reserved. Like it'd be like if you and I were doing a show together, like doing a critique of each other. Like I'm gonna definitely not say things or not say things publicly because like we have a relationship and like I value that. And so that's something we learned and it's just something that we got to like work on too. And just being clear of like, hey, like when we come in, I'm going to say exactly what I'm thinking. And like, that could be a problem for you. And if you want me to come, great. If not, listen to your coach because they're going to tell you the exact same thing. Yeah. So but yeah, in terms of behind the scenes there, I thought the media team did a great job. It was Terrell's first video.
Fantastic.
He did great.
Yep.
He forgot to put the captions on. So there was parts where you couldn't hear Cameron very well, and there was supposed to be captions, but we forgot to export it when we got it out. So, but the next one is going to be great. It's coming out of Alabama, probably the same day this is being shown. And then next week we're going to Louisiana. So I do not like traveling like this, and that is like day in, you shoot, and day out. It's 100+ degrees there right now. It feels like 113 in the shade. It's going to be great. So, but yeah, in general, what did I learn? It's just so black and white that like I could have said everything I said at that turnaround on a phone call, and it all would have been correct. But going in person, hopefully there's some extra push there. And whether or not someone listens, it's completely like it's on them, right? And so the same way that like when we talked about like, problems I'm having, like it's on me to fix those problems and like be self-aware enough to realize like I wasn't doing things right and fix them. And so whether or not owners do that is like a really important thing. And I think it's just so interesting though the fact that it is online, that everyone in the comments is the pro all of a sudden. And I always smile when people do that because I'm like, man, like I got problems in my business, like you got problems in your business, like. The fact that you would be negative towards anyone that's being, vulnerable online is just incredible.
Yeah. Do you think with Cameron specifically, do you think he's going to like heed your advice? Do you feel like there was some genuine turnaround on his part, whether on camera or off camera?
You're going like full Barstool here, dude.
Yeah.
We're talking about
just
people.
like, because I know there was stuff that wasn't filmed. I'm not asking you to like divulge, anything over the top, but just more generically speaking, like I'm sure you've sat down and had like dinner with him or something. Like, do you feel like he is going to make an effort to get back within the systems that Augusta claims to?
I don't think it has anything to do with systems.
Okay.
He's in the systems. He does P for P, everything like that. It's not like that show. The reason that show could be taken wrong was that it was not about the systems.
Okay.
And I wasn't critiquing the systems. I was critiquing the owner. Right. I was critiquing leadership. I was critiquing ownership of what they were doing. And so that's a lot more difficult because if I went in and I'm like, hey, you need to implement pay for performance and you need to have your trucks need to be different and like you have a different mower. That's easy, dude. And like no one's going to take offense to that. And so whether or not he does it, I don't know. I just don't know. Like, there's times the same thing if I went into a business, I said, hey, you need to raise prices or you need to increase, do pay for performance or you need to open book management. Like the same thing, like whether or not someone actually does it, I don't know, man. It's just like, it's totally on them. What happens between their ears at night once I leave and whether or not they implement is on them. Yeah. I told them the truth and, I've seen it now enough times and be pretty confident, but also, I really do believe that like, I have to be introspective enough of my own business to do the same thing. And so that's why like the past week, like after our talk, especially, but after like the weekend prior when stuff was not going well, I had to like step back and okay, so if I was like diagnosing this problem, this is what I'd tell myself. Okay, great. Like this is what needs to happen and doing that. And so hopefully the owners, if they start seeing more in these turnarounds, they just see frequency and they see the repetition of like certain problems and the solution, certain problems and the solution. And I'm only doing these videos so over time you just start to see, oh, like there's this problem, there should be this solution. And one of the things I'm talking about conference is like how I identify like the 3 bottlenecks in any business and then how you pinpoint it. And there's only 3 problems. And so I'm gonna like that's really all it is. It's just basic. It's basic stuff. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the 3 would be. Don't tell me.
Okay.
I'll wait till conference.
Yeah.
I think I got a good guess. Stepping back though, and this is not specific to Cameron. You said something interesting. You said I could have given all that corrective action over the phone. So why do you feel like as people or business owners we have this increased urgency when there's someone in front of us? Is it because we're uncomfortable? Because like that, it's that confrontation? No,
I think it's greater human connection. Yeah. Right. Like, if I'm making,
well, I guess you're saying connection, I'm saying confrontation, right? Anybody will spew keyboard warriors, right? Anybody will spew online, but on, let's just say like your comment section, right? There are some bad comments that you block and don't put on your public channel, but they would never say that to your face, right? So you're taking it from the human connection perspective. I'm saying the confrontation, like to fix something, the confrontation maybe isn't there on a phone call, but in person, the confrontation is more weighted. Does that make sense? Or you're saying you're putting a positive spin on it. It's actually the human connection that like I'm empathizing with them. I'm working through it with them, not just yelling at them over the phone.
Yeah. But also like I could say the same thing in person to a franchisee versus just like on a coaching call. You're taking it from the comments perspective, right? You're taking comments. I'm taking like the phone. That's why we're coming from different angles. Yeah. But I think in general, like people, if there's a human in front of them, it's just more real life. And then like people take it more serious. That's why people pay to go to conferences. You're not paying for the information, right? Like people just always like, oh man, like I don't know. You're not paying for the information. You're paying for the fact that you're in a room with 400 other people that are like-minded because you can't get that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Or 200 people or wherever you're going. And so that's the whole objective of in-person connection is it cements things faster. And so for a lot of people, if they're not self-reflective, they need another human being in front of them telling them something. And whether they listen to a YouTube video or listen to an audiobook, and it's like sometimes I just boggles my brain, like when a manager reads something like extreme ownership and then the next day starts blaming people or like can't take ownership. I'm like, what in the world? But if you had Jocko Willink in front of you saying the exact same words, you might listen a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And
fair.
so I think it's just interesting that like same words, different, delivery mechanism can make or break someone. And that's why like, whether it be conference and we have like masterminds, we have training on videos and I have like podcasts and I have entertaining videos. It's like, what medium do you need for me to communicate a better way to do business? Yeah. And we just try to hit all of them. And so that's the goal.
You alluded to conference, coming to things in person. I did want to ask, how are the sales going for conference?
Yeah, so it's always interesting because you're always a shot in the dark when it comes to sales because almost everyone buys within 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. The problem we have this year is we have to have all the hotels booked by September 15th, so a month before. Mm-hmm. So if I could redo it again, I would have probably done like a higher price ticket after that date. And I could still technically do that. So we might do that like after mid-September, just like raise the prices because we need people to buy before September 15th. Yeah. So it's just hard because like whenever we book venues, schedule for food, it is a complete shot in the dark. And you're just guessing at how many people are going to show up. And so down the road, I'd like it to make it more where it's not like that. Like I know I have franchisees there, so I know how many people are coming there.
There will be people in the seats.
Yeah, but then it's like a matter of like, in addition to that, they all book within 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And especially with Equip Expo being there too, where it's like you can just walk in and like get a ticket. People are even less likely to book in advance. Mm-hmm. So, and if they can drive, if someone can drive, like the thing about being out here in Bellingham is people have to fly. So you have to make more arrangements. So you will book in more advance. Whereas with Equip Expo and with the fact that now we're more centralized, like most of our audience, people are driving which means they will make a weekday, like a week before decision. And so that's like super hard to plan for. So my hope is that this year we crush it. And then next year I can say, look, we are stopping the tickets this day. Yeah. And like we're not going to go any forward. I can't do that this year because I know everyone's just pre-programmed to book within a couple weeks of it. Right. So we're shooting in the dark. I'm hoping I get 500 to 600 people. That would put us around break even in terms of like cost. And, I think realistically 450 is pretty achievable. Okay. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, we were pushing, 350 last year?
Yeah.
So I feel like just by centralizing, you're going to get an extra 100 people.
That's like the logic.
Like, it would make sense.
That's the logic. But you just don't know because literally like last year, we had about 60% book within the 4 weeks leading up to conference. Yeah. More than that. Yeah.
So does that affect the venue and like catering and stuff?
No, dude, you pay for everything up front. So you just don't know what's coming. Yeah. So you pay for how many plates you think you're going to need. You pay for how many rooms you got to block off. So it's nerve-wracking. Like I said in my post, it's over $250,000 now that I have to put up front and then you just cross your fingers and hope you sell tickets.
Jeez.
So we'll get better. Like the ultimate thing is I want it to be where it's like, hey, everyone, like the classic book out within a few minutes of going on order. Yeah. Like that's where I need to get it to eventually because then it's easier to plan. Yeah. Right? If I have 1,000 tickets and I know I sell them out within 2 days, great. I know I can, schedule and plan and, be better at the budget. Yeah. So, we're not making it a profit center ever. Like it's more a matter of like I just said, like having that way to interact with the audience on a face-to-face level is something I want to make, accessible. Yeah. But it's expensive, dude. Yeah. Like we're flying the whole team out there and got hotels for everybody and like it's just expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I just did the math $250,000 divided by a $400 ticket, you need 625.
Yeah.
So if people think you're doing it for profit, like, no, we're doing it for the community.
Well, it's not so much for the community. So yes, yeah, we are. Like, in one regard, we're trying to get that face-to-face connection, which for some people is like the trigger moment for them. They'll listen to me for 4 or 5 years. They'll come to a conference, like, it'll click.
Yeah.
But also it is a really good thing from a sales perspective because people do get faces to names. So like Copilot will be there, the team from there, the home service CPA team will be there. So like they'll meet people and like have faces to names, and that same connection in person will then translate to more sales. So like, we're not stupid. This is definitely a for-profit organization.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're doing it like out of the goodness of our hearts. No. But it is, I think the community element is at the core of why we do that event. Yes, we are selling products, but I'm not going to get up on stage and pitch Augusta. You're not going to have, someone from the Copilot team.
No one's allowed to pitch.
Do a demo and sign up here for 50% off. Yeah. We'll be there. We'll be representing your brands. Yeah. But no, I mean, obviously we're for profit.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It's gonna be good. Like the thing is too, like part of it is like I'm gonna spend probably the next 5 weeks, well it's 6 weeks, but like let's call it 5 weeks, working on these 8 keynotes. That makes no financial sense to talk to 600 people, 500, 600 people when I could make that same video and talk to thousands online, right? So. The difference, so I was thinking, I was like, what? That makes no sense because I'm not making any money on them. The difference is that when someone shows up to a YouTube video, they have contributed exactly a finger tap of effort to make that happen versus someone paying $400 in a ticket. They've had to travel there, get hotels and all the rest of it. So the stakes are like infinitely higher for those 500 or 600 people. And that's why there's pressure for me to deliver so much higher. Yeah. And this kind of came as a result of, Alex Hormozi was talking about how, if you only have 300 people watching your video, it's like, well, think about 300 people in a room and you're talking to them, and think about like how much. And then I get what he's saying, and it's like, take your content seriously. If you thought about 300 people in a room, you would probably prepare for days to figure out that keynote, right? Versus like setting up a camera, and like it's a big deal. However, the difference is the people who travel to that room have huge stakes. And so the reason that you put so much time and effort and energy into making sure you talk to them is because they have invested so much to make sure that they can come listen to you. And so that is the difference. And that's why conferences are valuable, in my opinion, is because the stakes are so much higher for you as an attendee that the speaker feels the pressure to perform at such a greater level. Right. And so, cause it's true. Like if you look at like the video we were just talking about, like there's 30,000+ people have already seen that video. That's a stadium. Right? If I was making a video that was going to be shown at like T-Mobile Park at the Mariners where there's 30,000 people, we would put a lot of time and energy into that, right? Whereas like that's exactly what happened. The thing is, the difference is at that game, they paying $20, $30, $40 for a ticket. They paid for parking. They drove there. They're spending an entire evening. And if I'm going to be there, I'm going to make sure it's good. Yeah. Versus, I don't have to do that same level of effort just putting something on social media. So that's the delineation. I think that's where the difference is, because I feel that pressure now. It's like, okay, if I'm asking people to drive, and when I get people in that room, like I know they're paying $1,000 to $2,000 per person to be there, I'm going to like give everything I got. Yeah. Right. So
it's the price value fulcrum of media and content.
Yeah.
Right. The price of admission on YouTube is a finger tap, right? Yeah. But the price of admission to the summit is $400.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I did have someone comment. This was on 2 videos ago, and I have said
about the jerseys.
No, the jerseys.
Brittany had a great comment. About the jersey, about Barbie. No.
Oh, yes. Yeah. This was a great comment. Yeah. This was a question from someone.
Okay.
I have always said if you put a question in there,
okay, well, we have to now say what Brittany said. Yes. So Brittany said that mocking people about dressing up to go to Barbie is like, we should also then be mocking the people who go to sports venues with a jersey. Yeah. Now, do you have a jersey?
Yes.
Oh, multiple. Man. You do?
I wore one to a game 2 weeks ago.
Oh, so I don't have a jersey.
This is perfect.
So I wasn't even on the bandwagon.
So, yes, it was on the Barbie video. People are making fun of, girls dressing in pink, high heels, whatever. I think it's cool. If you enjoy it, do it. Okay. And I think that if you're going to mock those people, you mock the guys wearing jerseys to football games.
Right. And then they burn the jersey when they move to a different team.
I think they're the exact same. So I agree with their comment 100%. But I don't mock people when they're like into something, or like even like Comic-Con. Like, dude, if you want to get dressed up as a superhero, if that's what you love doing, like do it. If that brings you joy, if you're not hurting someone, do it, right? But I wore a jersey to Felix Hernandez, who was my favorite baseball player of all time.
Yeah.
He got inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame last weekend. So I did wear my Felix Hernandez jersey. Here's my thing. I have a rule, though. I will never buy another jersey again of someone who is younger than me in age. I think that's weird.
Why?
Why would I wear some like young guy's name on my back? It feels weird.
Why?
Because it just feels weird. That's it. That's the logic. Like, why I can wear players that are older that I grew up watching, that are like legends. I'll wear their jerseys.
Okay.
But I'm not going to wear like a new guy's jersey. That feels weird to me.
That's the equivalent of saying like, I'm not going to have 6-inch heels when I go to Barbie's movie. Yeah. I'm just going to have 4-inch heels.
Yeah. It feels weird.
I'm going to wear Crocs
that
are pink.
That's a personal philosophy I have.
All right. I thought Brittany was correct. So go ahead.
I think she's correct. 100%.
Okay. All right.
I've
never bought a jersey.
Yeah.
Never bought a hat that was branded with a team's name.
Oh yeah. I'm all about that stuff. I'm a diehard Seattle fan.
If I have to pay $1 more for that logo to be on my hat, not happening.
Oh, you're paying like $30.
That's
more
crazy.
For that logo. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. Is another tangent.
Okay, another comment.
No. This is my tangent.
Tangent before the question.
I do this thing, and you'll probably think this is a total waste of money, but I don't care. It's a collection. Every Winter Olympics, I buy the U.S. men's hockey jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just the blank, no number, no name.
That's
just a blank.
Cool.
So that way, one day I'll have like 30 jerseys. Well, 30.
You're gonna live to 120.
No, wait, hold on. One day I'll have like 10 15 jerseys. Well, maybe my hopeful future son.
That's cool. That's cool.
Because it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, look.
You can watch Miracle on Ice every single year.
I usually do. It's a great movie. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's just, I don't know. I love hockey. I love the Winter Olympics are probably my favorite. Like, they're just super fun to watch. When they were here in Vancouver, I went up to a bunch of stuff and got up in the hoopla. So that's just something I do.
There you go.
It's a little personal keepsake. All right. Someone put a comment, and I didn't write down their username. I apologize. But this was on the Barbie video. They said, and it's a long question, so let me read it, and then you can respond. Since you, Mike Andes, have experienced ranking local service businesses on Google, what are the 3 most important parts of SEO for small local service businesses? Now, there's a second part to it. So you can answer that first, but let me read the second part. I've seen people say blog posts, Google reviews, number of pages, backlinks, using keywords, and so much more. But if you're a one-man show, what's the best bet?
I think if you're a one-man show, you want to spend all that time and energy on the Google listing. Because you probably don't have the money to make an incredible website, especially if you're in a bigger market. You want to spend all the time on Google listing because you'll at least have the ability to get above everyone else much faster than trying to build a site. Because if you're trying to compete against people that have been in business for 10, 15, 20 years and have all the SEO, have all the backlinks, have a great speed site, all the rest of it, you're better off trying to go after that top 3 spots that are showing on Google listings on Google Maps. So that would be the first thing from a one-man band perspective. And then I would then take your site that's probably simpler and really focus on the reviews. So bring in the reviews from Google, have pictures and videos with your customers. Like now with Augusta, we have like a whole dozens of videos with customers, real life, them videoing themselves of customer testimonials. And so I would lean into that as a one-man operation and less on the actual SEO of the site. SEO of the site will definitely grow your business, but if you're a one-man operation, you're not going to focus on that. And so if you're trying to scale though, then it's like speed of the site is the most important thing now. And how of a light of a site it is. So that way a device that has a lower connectivity on 3G or 4G can connect. So those would be like the entry level and then more advanced.
Yeah. And then come to Landscape Summit.
Why?
For him, I'm just answering his question. He can come to Landscape Summit, learn more about SEO.
Oh yeah, Tori's going to be there in the team, so they'll be able to help and stuff like that. And they'll definitely give out free advice. I'm going to have him talk for probably a 30-minute keynote, and he won't pitch or anything. It's going to be really about like what Google is currently changing and what we are seeing them shift towards. Like over the past few years, it's definitely been speed, and so he'll be talking a little bit more about that. Yeah,
that's cool that you're bringing someone like Tori, whose whole background is web design and SEO, to a lawn care.
I like him a lot. He's like very unassuming. Like he's not like gregarious, like out there kind of person, but like he's great. I can call him at 11, 12 o'clock and we just chat it up and talk about website stuff. So yeah, we're obviously redesigning Augusta's site right now. We have some stuff we're working on there. On like the back end code side. So yeah, he's gonna be wealth of knowledge. So yeah, you could come to Landscape Summit, yes. Yeah. But as a one-man operation, like spend all your time on your Google listing and then on your site, just highlight reviews and testimonials and videos and pictures of your customers as much as possible. And then as you get better and better and you have more money to spend, yes, there's other things you can do that are fancy.
Cool, good. Well, I have one other topic, or we can jump to non-financial advice. Your call.
Okay, let's do the other topic.
Let's do the other topic. All right, because this is a couple weeks old now. Okay. So whenever I come up with an idea for the pod, I just write it down, and if we get to it, great. If we don't, no big deal. Okay. So you did a mastermind. That is a private kind of live stream for the franchisees. You were at an airport. I believe you were going to one of the said turnarounds we were talking about earlier. You said, and I tried to get verbatim, you said you researched 20 big name entrepreneurs. And on average, it took them 12 years to become successful. So I was wondering, you used that as just like a brief example. I don't remember the specific context. I think you were just talking to a franchisee that maybe was in a lull, or, hey, like you got to just grind it out for a few more years. You'll get there. So what metrics were you looking at? What names, what industries, like who are these 20 big name entrepreneurs that you're referring to?
Yeah, like the impetus behind that conversation was simply the fact that most of the people that we are listening to have already got past the first stages of growth in their business. And the reason we hear about them is because they have the infrastructure and the manpower and the money to broadcast a message. And so you're not hearing from the people that are in year 1 and 2 and 3. And it's not to say that they're any less or more that we should listen to them. Obviously, with success comes authority, and that's why those people become popular, and then we do listen to them. The problem is that, like, for example, I'm 10 years into Augusta. I'm getting a boat so I can literally just have more focused time, and I'm delegating a lot, and I'm trying to create lines of between me and frontline, like lots of stuff like that. That's not what most people should be doing in year 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And so hearing that, and someone's like, someone I know has already heard this and been like, I'm going to look up boat clubs. I'm going to look, this is an excuse why I can buy my fancy car or my fancy truck. And what they're missing is that for 10 years, like for 4 of those 10 years, I lived in a closet and, I don't have a fancy car, and this is like pulling teeth for me to do it. But I know that's the right thing for me to do in terms of like financially, because I hate spending money. However, the reason I said that is because most people give up in those first 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years because they're listening to people like me or people that are beyond me that are way doing different things, right? So they see someone like Alex on private jets. They see someone like Gary flying all over the world and getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak. And they're like, I should be doing that. It's like, well, yes. Okay, great. So let's first off just remember that for 12 to 14 years of his life, he worked every single day for free for his parents, doing retail jobs, like $15 an hour jobs, for a very long time. He didn't create any content until he was 33. And then it's only now, like 10 years after that, when most people actually got to know him. Right? It's only been the past 5 years. He's now late 40s. And so this kind of aligns with what I wrote when we hit 100,000 subscribers, and that is like success is not linear. And so what happens is because people are listening to people that are up on this upswing, they've already hit where it becomes exponential. Because they're listening to them, they look at their status, their progress over the course of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, like, oh, nothing's happening. It's like if you went back 10, 15, 20 years, the same thing, like it felt the same way for them. And so like, I went through 20 different influencers, Graham Stephan, Meet Kevin, like the ones that are influencers. Like I'm looking at the people who people are listening to. Right. Gary V, Alex, Layla, like all the business people. So I really Cardone, Cardone, like he traveled for almost 15 years doing in-person seminars and multiple times wanted to quit. Couldn't figure out relationship stuff. Like he was a broken person. It was late in his mid 40s when people started to know who he was, but he was in his 20s doing seminars. And the reason that people listen to him now today, and he's like has a very unique communication style, is because for years he figured that out on the road, traveling all over the place and doing in-person little tiny seminars that he couldn't make any money on. So everyone sees this though and wants that. And it's like, well, but you're over here on that arc and they went through what you did for 10, 15, 20 years to get where they're at. And so listening to what they're doing and thinking that is the solution is problematic. And that's why I'm trying to be very careful about, like, as I become on that exponential curve, I'm not like, everyone needs to like relax and take things easy. It's like, no, like the first years are going to be horrible, and you're probably not going to sleep if you really want, if you want to get on this curve and you want to get here, it's going to be horrible. And so this is where like I'm pushing in that direction kind of almost to a fault, because I think Gary Vee, who is a big influencer in the space, has gone so far the opposite direction, like do what you love, you know, empathy and passion and all that stuff. I understand that. I get it. I know where he's coming from. But I do feel like the vast majority of people buy into that, and they're like, that they think that will become success. It's like, no. You're going to do that so much to the fact that you hate it, because it is like you are doing it for 16, 18 hours a day and you're not sleeping. If you want to have this, if you don't want to have this and you just want to have, you know, a regular lifestyle, that's fine. Like do what you love and et cetera. Yeah. But if you want to, it's going to be painful. Yeah. And so, that's why, like, I hope that I can say ground enough that as that happens to me, like people will see me on a private jet, people will see like more of that stuff, that I can also be like, hey, by the way, that's not what you should be doing.
Right.
That's not what got me here. Like, you know, Jeff Bezos didn't build Amazon going around on yachts and traveling the world and being at fancy events. He built it by like having Amazon spray painted the wall and everyone working all day long on their hands and knees packing boxes. That's what built Amazon. And so I do that just to keep people focused and centered, because what we're watching all the time is the people on the exponential curve of success, and we lose reality of like our comparison of what happened in the past years. Like, oh man, my business only grew from like 500,000 to 600,000. This person went from 10 million to 40 million. Yeah, they're on this exponential curve. Yeah. It's a different game. So, but it took them 15, 20 years to get there. So
I like the framework too that you've been using recently as like 10-year swings. Are you going to talk about that more at the summit?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, 10-year swings is important. Like this is obviously 10 years for Augusta. 10 years prior to that was like my whole like college career and like doing lawns on the side and golf and all that sort of thing. But like in terms of career, like I've just finished my first swing, in my opinion, right? Yeah. And so typically once you hit a solid, you know, hit in that swing, there's two options. One, do you diversify and like invest that money and go into different industries? Or two, you just double down on it. Yeah. And so I'm like choosing the latter, which is like, I'm going to take what I'm doing. And like we talked about last conference, is basically more leverage, right? So more locations, same industry, but now I'm going software. Eventually that will become a capital play. You know, whether it be taking it public down the road, or whether it be getting investors to get into a fund, and then we start a whole bunch of Augusta locations. So, but honestly, like I truly believe until you spend 10 years in an industry, you can't judge it. Yeah. And until you spend 10 years on your business, you know, nose to the grindstone, you can't say whether or not you are or not a successful business owner, or whether or not that business is right for you. Most of the success is going to be seen in years 8, 9, and 10. And so most people give up in years 1 through 3 and even 4 and 5. And there's challenges all along the road, but everyone wants to be at year 10, but they aren't willing to go through years 1 through 5. Yeah. And so,
well, for you, beginning of year 8 was like 100 franchise locations. End of year 9 is 100,000, well, 140,000 subscribers on YouTube now, right? So it's like, no, you're the overnight success that did it over the course of 10 years.
And that will just become more and more exponential, right? Yeah. So people will just start to feel like, oh man, I want what Mike has. And the big reason I stress this to the franchisees is because there's a part of joining Augusta that you want what I have. And if you're comparing yourself to me 10, 12 years ahead of you, and you're starting at 1, you've got to remember, you got to give yourself 12 years to get to where I'm at. Right. And so judging based upon that is going to be like, that comparison can be crippling massively. Because like if I had, and what I think about is like, okay, if I was in Augusta and I was 18 and I was going through what I did, obviously, hopefully I would have less of the problems I did in the years 1 through 5, and I would have been profitable sooner. However, it'd also be very difficult to compare yourself to people that are close to you that are already in those 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, if you don't have the focus of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. In 10 years, I'll be there. I'm not expecting that this year. I'm not expecting that next year, and I'm going to stay patient with it. And I think just unfortunately, the past 15, 20 years, as technology has taken off so much, we've just seen so much of the quote unquote overnight successes, i.e. just businesses that go from 0 to $1 billion valuations within a year or 2 years, that we somehow think that's what it's supposed to be. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. And it's not. Like even Copa, it's like hell on earth, dude.
Yeah.
It's like very hard. Like we're still losing money. Like it's still very, very difficult. I'm still spending like late last night. I'm still typing up till late at night. Yes, we were on the boat. Fancy. Like I got all that information.
Yeah.
You know, me and the laptop, we're having a great time. However, it's going home and up until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, refining, fixing, looking at the problems. And no one will see that in 10 years.
Right.
And so I'm glad that in the way we had the podcast, because like I do believe in 5 or 10 years, people will be like, oh, you're so great. And like, no. Look at what it was like. Hell.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Like pain in your chest, like all that stuff. And so I think people just glaze over that or forget to acknowledge that is just part of the process.
Yeah, that's fair. And I feel like too, as one of your franchise coaches, we've been doing this almost 4 years now, franchising. Our first training class was in fall of 2019. Right before COVID. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there are pockets of the first, 40 to 50 locations that have been doing this for 3-4 years that they're like, it's starting to click. Like they're starting to get it. Like it's starting to become just repetition. Like it's not the same stressors. I just have to keep my head down and keep grinding and keep hiring, keep implementing the systems, keep trusting the process. And I've seen it on coaching calls that it clicks. Like I get it. And then we have franchisees that are like, I'm going to break $500,000 this year. We have franchisees that are on track to be close to $1 million this year. And they're like, I wouldn't have thought that I could do that. When I first joined. Like I thought I could do that in year 1 when I first joined, and then reality set in and I realized it's a grind to get there, but now I'm getting there. Mm-hmm. So it's cool that it's starting to click, and I think you need community, you need coaches, you need mentors that will openly admit that it sucks, it's hard, and you just have to put your head down and grind, mm-hmm. right? And I think that the reality of social media, which is there a reality of social media? That's an interesting concept. Like the reality on social media is that like, oh, you can just be an overnight success. Do this. Here's this sales tip. Here's this trick. Get into this industry and you'll be successful. And it's like, no, the reality is grinding for 10 to 12 years. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to be the success story, right?
Yeah. So, and it's just a matter of like, if you love the game, you keep doing it. Right. So if someone doesn't love the game, that's fine. Like enjoy the spot where you're at. You can pause your growth and be happy, but don't expect what someone else has that you're comparing to mm-hmm. for you to have that level without that level of sacrifice. And so, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Oh, you want financial advice?
Financial advice?
Okay, go ahead, dude.
I do have some.
Go for it.
So this is actually courtesy of my friend Braden. But
Braden.
He has a marketing company.
Okay.
He has marketing locally.
You just said Braden like I'm supposed to know who that is.
No. I just want to give him credit.
Okay.
I just got to give him credit. No.
Okay.
You've probably met him. He's come to the conferences locally and stuff.
Oh, cool.
But he has the Apple credit card.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear about this?
What about it?
They have a new savings account.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a 4.15 APY.
Cool. Wow.
So it's a high yield savings account if you have the Apple
credit card.
Is
that still through Goldman Sachs or who they
Still
using?
through Goldman Sachs,
Cool.
FDIC. So that's my non-financial advice. I'm actually going to look into that because I feel like I have, and we've talked about this privately, I have too much of my savings, but I don't feel comfortable deploying it in certain areas. Obviously, I do have certain investments, retirement funds, Roth IRAs, things of that nature. But I still have a chunk in my savings that I'm like, what should I do with it? And it's like, well, high yield savings account makes sense. So I might look into the Apple credit card.
There you go.
I think I'm going to, honestly.
Cool.
And the credit card's titanium.
That's the real
You
key.
seem way cooler. Let's be honest. If someone has an Apple credit card, it looks cool.
That's
it's all
funny.
white and it's titanium.
Oh,
just has a
man.
little Apple logo on it.
That's hilarious.
But you get like a lot of cash back too for places that use Apple Pay.
Right.
So if you know places that use Apple Pay, then you can prioritize like shopping there, purchasing there, because then you get large dividends back too. So that's a bonus.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I've heard that from my friend, like integration and UX is just phenomenal if you use Apple products.
Oh, it's so integrated.
Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I like simplicity. So sign me up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
Good for you, man. My non-financial advice is just honestly just like bet on yourself first. And unfortunately, the reason I think most people don't is they lack the confidence because they feel like their track record isn't good enough. But if you're in it for the long term, I think betting on yourself is probably the best move. Whether that be you're an employee and you are, spending, money on a course to become better at your job, and betting on yourself, spending that $500 on that course is betting on yourself. Mm-hmm. It is betting on your skills having a higher appreciable value than $500 sitting in the bank. And if you're a business owner, like bet on yourself. And so like recently I've bet like big on some stuff that we've been doing And like financially it's difficult, but like I'm more confident in that money being deployed against my skills and me having control over it than putting it in the S&P 500 or like stock market or the bank, whatever. And so I think that if you're in it for the long game, betting on yourself is a great strategy. And whether that is from an employee's perspective or a business owner's perspective, because you have full control of what happens and you're not at the mercy of the stock market or the real estate market or the bank or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
come to Landscape Summit, bet on yourself, learning. I'm just going to shamelessly plug
Chips
it.
all in at Landscape Summit.
Yeah, dude. Let's go. Like and subscribe and share.
Yeah, let's go.